You're bored with your work. You're always thinking about that perfect job. Now meet people who've escaped the 9-to-5 grind to live out their dreams. Then, she was the star of the original Lolita. Now the reclusive actress Sue Lyons denounces the new version of the movie. Plus, as we pay tribute to our nation's war dead, a living American hero.
I was there the day it started. I led the first bombing raid against North Vietnam. I was there the day it ended, and I was there for everything in between.
Admiral of the brave. Also, swimwear you can wear out at night.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Journal. It's great to have you with us. I'm Michelle Dabney-Perez.
And I'm Charles Perez. Hope you've been enjoying the holiday. First today, a special report that could save your life.
Statistics show more and more carjackers are locking their victims in the trunks of their car. 2 people are locked in their car trunks each day in the United States. The carjacking itself is a horrifying experience, but as Les Trent shows us, the inability to free yourself from a closed trunk is just as scary.
They told us to get into the car, into the trunk of the car.
You're in that trunk and you are totally without any power or control on anything in your life.
I did everything I could possibly think of to try and break open that trunk.
He slammed the trunk down and took off, driving like a maniac.
You feel like you're in hell.
20-year-old Philip Chandler almost didn't make it out alive when so-called friends threw him into the trunk of his father's Mustang. At first, he thought it was a joke. After 5 hours of suffering tremendously in the sweltering Orlando, Florida heat, he was discovered. Doctors told his parents he wouldn't make it through the night.
They just didn't hold out much hope for him.
But this determined young man amazed everyone with his will to live. Philip was comatose for 2 weeks. He endured years of grueling physical therapy. And now, 4 years later, Philip is well enough to take a trip to North Carolina with his dad. In recent years, more than 600 Americans have been locked in the trunks of their cars. In many cases, they didn't make it out alive.
It makes no sense in today's world that people have to be locked in the trunk of a car.
Jeanette and Greg Fennell are 2 faces behind the sobering statistics. At their San Francisco home 2 years ago with their baby boy in the car, they were held up by masked gunmen who shoved them into the trunk and took them on an odyssey they never thought they'd survive. Jeanette was lucky she pulled the right wire and escaped.
I had pulled all the wires loose on the back of the car, and I said to my husband, I think I found the trunk release. He pulled that cable and it popped the trunk.
Now the Fennells and the Chandlers are determined to change the way automakers design cars, so there's an obvious release latch in every vehicle's trunk. Bob Castelli is a security expert and former cop who has seen some of the results of what happens to trunk lock victims.
What I'm going to do, just to sort of hopefully visualize this, is I'm actually going to get in the trunk of the car. I'm going to have you close this. We'll see, first of all, whether or not I can possibly get out, and also just give the folks a sense of what it's actually like in there. Hope no one calls the police. Now, first of all,
we will let you out.
He will. Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I tell you right now that just even with the thing open, it's an incredibly claustrophobic feeling.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Take a deep breath.
Whoa. It is extremely dark in here. Now, one thing I do notice is that where the light sockets are, you can see a little bit of daylight, which may give somebody some hope.
By the time I got out 2.5 minutes later,
wow.
Experts say being prepared is the best defense. A flashlight is essential. A crowbar will help you pry the trunk open. If your car has a remote control locking system, keep an extra one hidden in the trunk.
You can set the alarm off remotely with that particular switch.
And if you're really concerned, have a car alarm company install a trunk latch release for you. The cost, under $100.
Car manufacturers say that there are no current plans to install lock release mechanisms inside car trunks. Charles.
Michelle, the movie Lolita, about a teenage temptress, is one of the most controversial films ever made. And a remake starring Oscar-winning actor Jeremy Irons may raise even more hackles. The original Lolita, Sue Lyons, says the movie destroyed her career.
That's my low.
She's the ultimate teen temptress, Lolita. And now, decades after the original movie, the sexy seductress is back on the silver screen.
Want to see my chin wobble?
But the remake, starring 14-year-old Dominique Swain, is in trouble. Despite A-list talent, including Oscar winner Jeremy Irons and Melanie Griffith, no distributor will release the new version in the U.S., but it will air on Showtime and the Sundance Channel. Many believe stories such as the JonBenet Ramsey murder have scared distributors away from such topics. Sharon Waxman covers Hollywood for The Washington Post.
It's just something that we're extremely sensitive to in our society.
The original movie was controversial too. In the 60s, much of the attention was on the actress who brought Lolita to life.
Voila! My yellow roses, my daughter, a darling.
Sue Lyon was also 14 when she landed the role of the sexy teenager with an older lover. Her future looked bright. Eric Morris was her acting coach.
I was always impressed with her talent, always, and I think she could have been a superstar.
But today, Sue Lyon is a virtual recluse, not a superstar. Despite a dozen films, she couldn't shake the Lolita label, which proved more of a career curse than a blessing. Her personal life had problems too, including 3 failed marriages. Her first to actor Hampton Fancher lasted 5 years. Her second husband was former football player Roland Harrison. Their marriage lasted only a year, but produced Lyon's only child, daughter Nona. Then came a controversial third marriage. In 1971, while working as a volunteer for the LA Public Defender's Office, the Hollywood actress falls in love with a convicted killer. Gary Adamson was serving 20 to 40 years at Colorado State Penitentiary in Denver for murder and armed robbery. After a 2-year courtship, the couple marries in a prison ceremony, and since friends and family didn't support the marriage, a newspaper reporter gives the bride away. Their 5-year marriage was annulled in 1978. Wedding number 4 fared far better. Lyon's been married to radio engineer Richard Rudman since 1985. Today, the actress who once seemed destined for fame and fortune lives a quiet, private life.
She spends a lot of time at home in her garden and doing the things she loves doing, and she seems happier than I've ever known her to be.
Lyons has been reluctant to talk about her role in the film, but now says, quote, "I'm appalled they should revive the film that caused my destruction as a person," end quote.
Now, when we come back, the sweet smell of success. If you've already got that back-to-work blues, you better stay tuned.
We'll show you how you may be able to land your dream job.
Coming up. Do you hate the thought of going back to work after the holiday weekend? You can change your life forever with the job of your dreams.
I would not change doing what I'm doing right now for all the money in the world.
We'll show you the secret of your future success. Plus, on Memorial Day, the story of a real American hero and the men he led in Vietnam's Hanoi Hilton. Michelle Dabney-Perez and Charles Perez will be right back with more American Journal, Coast to Coast.
Have you ever seen that ad where a guy is lying on the beach with a beautiful companion and a long, cool drink? Then he pinches himself and wakes up at a little workstation in some miserable office. Well, millions of people actually feel that way in their real lives. But there are some people who have dream jobs. They love what they do. So how do you get one? Well, watch this.
The things we do to get through the workday.
All right.
We dream of basking in the sun and let our imaginations roam, all in hopes of escaping the 9-to-5 grind. If you're one of those who dreams of greener pastures, this is a story for you. How to land your dream job.
I think I probably am living my dream life right now.
But life wasn't always so beachy for 47-year-old Keith Johnson. He used to be an accountant with tasks so boring, he jokes his work amounted to bean counting. So 4 years ago, he decided to pursue his dream job, life and social work.
I would not change doing what I'm doing right now for all the money in the world.
That's good because he now makes less money than before counseling foster kids in Fort Lauderdale. Even so, Johnson says his new job gives him a greater sense of worth.
If you're not really excited about going to work and making a contribution and being of service, then you need to look at what you're doing.
Author Terry Bell counsels professionals who want a new career. She says many people equate a high salary with a fulfilling job. But Bell says they've got it all wrong.
The word career, interesting. The first 4 letters, what are they?
Care.
Care. When you're doing what you care most about.
Bell says every dream job will interest you, add value to your life, and bring satisfaction to your career. Kateri Ellison has had an interest in sewing since she was a kid. However, she only recently turned this hobby into a full-time job after the government offered her an early retirement.
It's almost sinful to get paid for having as much fun as I do.
So how do you land that dream job? Career counselors say sell your skills just like Ellison did, take risks just like Johnson did, and look for new opportunities in today's changing workplace just like James Powell did.
Everyone can have their dream job. We all made out of the same stuff.
Powell pursued his dream as a business owner 5 years ago after the federal government gave him the pink slip. One day, looking at some buildings, he had a revelation.
I knew I couldn't buy the building, so I said if I could create a product that they need to maintain these buildings, then I could probably make some money.
And so with $250, he started a mop manufacturing plant. Powell Industries is now worth well over $500,000.
You have to be mentally tough in business. But tough times don't last, tough men do.
I get up, I look forward to going to work. I put in long hours, but I'm very satisfied with doing that.
Wow. So what's your dream job?
I think maybe one where I'm all by myself. No, just kidding, just kidding. Actually, I have a little script I could show you if you're interested in making a movie.
Okay, we can talk about that a little bit later. Now, when we come back this Memorial Day holiday, the story of a real American hero.
Coming up, he fired the first shots of the Vietnam War and spent 8 years in the Hanoi Hilton. The story of an American hero. Next.
The hottest stories in America are on American Journal, coast to coast.
Memorial Day weekend is a time for barbecues and the beach, but it's also a time for remembering Americans who've fallen in battle. You're about to meet a remarkable hero, a man who won the admiration of people who both supported and opposed the war in Vietnam. He's a man who withstood horrendous hardships for America and went on to work for the cause of peace.
On August 5th, 1964, Squadron Commander Jim Stockdale shouted the go code, play ball, into his radio and led his wing on the air attack that opened the Vietnam War.
Who am I? Why am I here?
28 years later, he was the vice presidential running mate of election wildcard Ross Perot in a campaign which reverberated with ghostly echoes of Vietnam.
I was there the day it started. I led the first bombing raid against North Vietnam. I was there the day it ended, and I was there for everything in between.
Stockdale flew 200 combat missions in the first 13 months, almost 4 a week. Then his luck ran out. Shortly after this picture was taken, he was shot down. Stockdale was not only the highest-ranking naval officer to fall into enemy hands, he also held Vietnam's biggest secret.
Our response for the present will be limited and fitting.
President Johnson's pretext for the escalation of the war had been the alleged attack by North Vietnamese on the destroyer Maddox in the Gulf of Tonkin. Stockdale knew there had been no such attack. As America's commitment to the war escalated and protest at home grew, that information would have been an invaluable propaganda weapon for the North Vietnamese. Americans captured by the North Vietnamese were ill prepared for the conditions that faced them. They were repeatedly tortured and kept chained in solitary confinement. Prisoners who made propaganda statements were paraded before the international press. Harry Jenkins was one of Stockdale's fellow prisoners who became known as the Alcatraz Gang.
Well, Admiral Stockdale was an inspiration. He was an inspiration to everyone. I don't think you'll find a POW that doesn't speak in just the highest terms of him.
Stockdale set up a command structure and maintained the prisoners' morale and discipline, and he invented a system of communicating with other isolated prisoners.
It's an old one that has been used since the Greeks. A 5x5 matrix for a 25-letter alphabet. And A would be B, C, D.
He insisted his men take as much torture as they could stand before submitting to the enemy's demands. Captain Eugene Red McDaniels was also a prisoner.
Physical torture would be rope torture, deprived without sleep for long days and nights. In my case, 7 days, 7 nights. I'm sure he experienced the same thing. Leg irons, 24 hours a day, sometimes for months at a time.
Yet when Captain Jenkins cracked under torture, Stockdale supported him.
And when I told him what I've done, and he came back with, "Welcome to the club," that was the most uplifting thing that could have been said, because I knew suddenly that I was not the sole traitor there, or a traitor, I'll put it that way.
Told that he would be forced to take part in a propaganda film, Stockdale beat himself with a stool and slashed his head. On another occasion, he slashed his wrists.
They finally dove him to the point where he attempted to kill himself rather than make this movie. And this was he'd reached as far as he could go and still resist, and he was ready to do that.
Stockdale and other prisoners resisted hardship for 8 years. He was finally freed at the end of the war. He was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor and 26 other decorations and promoted to admiral.
The best thing I had going for me was I had no contact with Washington for all those years.
Stockdale is a hero to former POWs and thousands of Vietnam vets, particularly those who believe there are still prisoners in Southeast Asia.
I feel like I'm an observer at a ping pong game.
Stockdale briefly returned to the headlines when he became Ross Perot's running mate and took part in this TV debate against Al Gore and Dan Quayle. Admiral Stockdale says he'll never return to politics. A true American hero. He's with a foreign policy think tank at Stanford University, and he's working on a book with his wife, Sybil.
Admiral Stockdale says that he's thoroughly enjoying retirement and that he is keeping very busy with his 4 sons and his 8 grandchildren.
When we come back, we're headed for the beach.
Next time on American Journal, a warning at one of America's biggest tourist attractions. Wild bears are on the prowl, and unsuspecting tourists better beware. Frightening incidents of bears coming too close to people and even into neighborhoods. Now, how an area under siege is fighting back. Plus, ugly stretch marks. Could a breakthrough new treatment get rid of them? We put it to the test. Next time.
And finally today, beach by day, party by night.
Sounds like fun.
Well, now making the switch from stunning beach wear to glamorous evening wear just got a whole lot easier. And Rhonda Guess is here to tell us all about it.
The last thing you want to think about at the beach is clothes. But after you leave the sun and sand, you need a little more than these bikinis. But not much, according to fashion expert Caitlin DeMonchi.
It's about stretching your fashion dollar, about not having to have so many things, about making your life simpler and not having to lug a lot of stuff when you go away for the weekend.
We pulled together some of the season's coolest swimsuits to show you just how easy it is to go from day to night with just a few pieces. Take this black high-neck tank. It's gorgeous poolside, but look how easy it takes you to a party, and it's sexy too.
I took this suit, which is the Land's End high-neck suit, and I added a beautiful skirt, and as you can see, it's got nice fluidity and movement, and voila, she's ready for a night on the town.
This animal print by Nicole Miller is particularly hot right now. If you're going out to dinner, pair it with a 2-piece suit. Animal prints are perfect. If you want to look elegant, pair it with this beautiful suit with a longer skirt.
This works for me because it's simple and it's sexy. And once I get to the club, if it starts getting hot, I can take off this jacket.
This Anne Klein tankini covers up more than most suits and takes you casually to a poolside cocktail party. Bright colors like this Liz Claiborne are perfect for the beach and can also brighten up the night.
I've combined it here with a beautiful skirt. Print, ethnic is definitely happening, and here with a slit for a little bit of movement. So again, it's about caressing the body, not having something too skin tight.
Spiegel designed this embroidered, sophisticated one-piece that our model says moves her right into a special event and fits her lifestyle.
It's great because I can go from the beach and with minimal fuss, put on the skirt, put on the shoes, and be very elegant for dinner.
So the next time you pick a swimsuit, remember it can work outside the water.
Wow, new outfits for you this summer, huh?
I like those. Pretty nice. And that's it for today, everybody. I'm Michelle Dabney-Perez.
And I'm Charles Perez. We'll see you on the next American Journal.
It's your appointment with us. Bye-bye.